The gift no one wanted. The palace of Baron Threxil reeked of excess. Crystal chandeliers floated mid-air, spinning lazily beneath the vaulted ceilings of obsidian glass. Gold-veined pillars lined the great hall, and dozens of alien nobles lounged in translucent robes, their bioluminescent skin glowing under ambient light. And among them, standing straight in his worn human officer's coat, was Commander Reid Carter. Out of place, but not out of his depth. He hated this kind of theater, but humanity's future in the sector depended on it. A waiter with 4 arms offered a drink. Reid declined. His jaw was tight, his hand still scarred from the last war. This wasn't peace, it was a circus, and the ringmaster was about to make his move. Ah, the famous Commander Carter, purred Baron Threxil, gliding toward him on repulsive thrones as if he floated above consequence itself. The Baron's voice was soaked in mockery. A warrior turned diplomat. How quaint. Reid inclined his head, but didn't smile. I came to discuss the Eurus Accord, not be part of the sideshow. The Baron grinned wider, his fangs flashing. Oh, but Commander, I have a gift for you. A token of goodwill. 2 guards emerged, wheeling in a hovering gurney. On it lay a young woman, unmoving, eyes vacant but aware. Her once regal armor had been stripped for sterile robes. Thin tubes threaded into her spine, and a silver brace cradled her neck. Zeriel Threxil, the Baron's only daughter, the once mighty war maiden of House Threxil, now reduced to a body that breathed but could no longer move. Reid froze. This wasn't a gift. It was mockery dressed in flesh. She was paralyzed in an unfortunate political misunderstanding, the Baron drawled. Such a shame. I thought perhaps you humans, so resourceful in your little salvage colonies, could make use of her. She can't speak, can't move, but she sees everything. Think of her as a living decoration. The alien nobles burst into laughter. Some clapped. A few looked uneasy, but didn't object. No one ever did. Reid's jaw clenched, but he said nothing for a long moment. He turned his gaze to Zeriel. Her eyes locked with his, burning. Not begging, not ashamed, angry, furious. She had been given away like garbage. He stepped forward. I'll take her. The Baron blinked. What? I said I'll take her. On behalf of humanity. Reid's voice was cold steel. And I thank you for your generosity. The room fell awkwardly silent. Even the Baron looked uncertain. The joke hadn't landed the way he expected. Without another word, Reid motioned to his aide, who guided the floating gurney behind him. The human delegation turned and left the hall as laughter faltered in their wake. Hours later, aboard his ship, the Elandra, Reid stood beside the med bay as Zeriel was transferred into stasis for long-term travel. Dr. Chun, his chief physician, examined her with care. Her neural spines almost completely severed, Chun said, frowning, and there's synthetic toxin embedded in her nervous system. Someone didn't just paralyze her. They engineered her disability. Reid nodded slowly. Political rivals? Or her own father? Reid looked down at Zeriel again. Her eyes tracked him, sharp and lucid, still burning. He crouched to her level. I don't know what kind of person you were before, he said quietly, but I know what they think you are now. A burden. A joke. Her eyes didn't blink. I don't see that. What I see is someone who wants to fight. I don't know how yet, but I'll find a way. Not out of pity. You deserve better than that. You deserve a choice. For the first time, her gaze softened. Reid rose and turned to his comms officer. Set course for Vega Station. I know someone who might be able to help us rebuild a legend. As the stars stretched into lines and the ship leapt to faster than light, one truth burned in Reid's mind. The Baron thought he had humiliated a human, but all he had done was hand over spark. And Reid knew exactly how to make it burn, rebuilding a warrior. The medical labs of Vega Station were a world apart from anything the Baron's empire understood. Cold steel corridors pulsed with the hum of plasma reactors. Surgical lights floated like drones. Augmented humans, exosuited technicians, and AI-navigated meshed passed through sterilized doors without a glance. Commander Reid Carter stood outside Lab 7, watching through the observation glass. Inside, Zeriel Threxil lay motionless on a diagnostic slab, her body half submerged in a translucent medical gel. Dozens of neural probes hovered over her spine like predatory insects. Her eyes remained alert, watching. Always watching. "She's lucky to be alive," muttered Dr. Kira Minsa, arms crossed. Her shaved head reflected the pale blue glow of biomonitors. Or maybe not lucky. Depends on how much fight she's got left. "She hasn't blinked once in 20 minutes, Reid said. "That's not someone who's given up." Minsa sighed. "Her neural lattice is fractured, Commander. Not just broken, burned out. Someone poisoned her nervous system with nanite-based paralysis. No alien tech I've seen. This was intentional, cruel, and meant to last forever." "I've seen worse," Reid replied. "And I've seen what you do." She eyed him skeptically. "What I do is dangerous. Illegal in half the galaxy. I replace shattered lives with machine parts and pray the soul survives the transition." "You think she wants that?" Reid tapped the glass. Zeriel's eyes shifted. "Ask her." Minsa stepped inside and activated the retinal input interface. A soft green light blinked over Zeriel's eye. "Zeriel Threxil," Minsa said calmly. "If you can understand me, blink once. Blink. If you want to live as more than a body, if you want to move, walk, fight again, blink twice. Blink. Blink." Minsa raised an eyebrow. "That's all the consent I need." The next few weeks were a blur of pain, precision, and perseverance. First came the surgeries. Zeriel's shredded spinal tissue was replaced with a human-engineered neural weave, an artificial cord laced with smart gel and adaptive fiber. The poison was flushed, cell by agonizing cell. Her limbs were removed, replaced with modular sockets for cybernetic attachment. Each procedure brought her closer to movement, but not without cost. Her body trembled with phantom pain. Her lungs seized from muscle atrophy. The nurses called her recovery miraculous. But it wasn't a miracle. It was war. Reid visited daily. He watched her learn to move artificial fingers. First one, then 5. She trained in a zero-gravity chamber, limbs twitching, stabilizers spinning. When she fell, she glared at the floor as if daring it to rise against her again. She never once cried. Dr. Minsa designed her a body unlike anything in alien records. Sleek black, cybernetic arms with multi-function interfaces, legs with gyroscopic balance correction, a spinal brace that turned nerve signals into electronic pulses faster than thought. "She won't just walk again," Minsa whispered to Reid. "She'll fight again, and better." Zeriel soon began voice therapy through a throat implant. Her first words were hoarse, clipped. "Why help me?" Reid leaned forward. "Because they gave you to me as a joke. But I don't find you funny." She chuckled once. It sounded like gravel grinding steel. "I was a weapon once," she said. "Now I'm something else." "No," he corrected gently. "Now you're what they fear, a weapon rebuilt by humans. You're ours now." By the second month, Zeriel stood on her own. By the third, she ran combat simulations with Sergeant Vec, a grizzled alien merc who once served under her command. "You move like a ghost," Vec muttered, rubbing his bruised ribs after a training session. "If I didn't know better, I'd say the humans put a demon in your bones." "I was dead," she replied coolly. "Now I'm something they didn't plan for." She turned to Reid. "I want back in the fight." He nodded slowly. "We're building something. A team. Mixed species. Rebels. Free thinkers. Outcasts. And now you." Her cybernetic fingers flexed like talons. "Then let's show the galaxy what a joke looks like when it hits back." The trials of flame and steel. The skies above Cauldron burned red with rebellion. Cities once loyal to Baron Threxil now smoldered in ruin, torn apart by unrest. Civilian outposts declared independence. Slave colonies mutinied. Even minor alien houses whispered sedition. And in the chaos, a single name traveled like wildfire: Zeriel. But not the paralyzed heir the Empire believed dead. This Zeriel was reborn. Ruthless. Precise. Cybernetically enhanced. Human-trained. Commander Reid Carter stood on the bridge of the Elandra, watching encrypted reports stream across the holodable. Mass defections. Noble deserters. A militia calling themselves the Flameborn had started forming, bound not by species, but by a single oath. We follow the one who rose. Your legend is outpacing you, Reid muttered as Zeriel entered the bridge, armored head to toe in her matte black battle rig, glowing circuits pulsing with every step. I didn't ask for a legend, she said. I asked for a mission. She got one. The prison colony of Irek Station was a floating fortress in orbit around a volcanic moon. It held thousands of political prisoners and ex-soldiers, kept in stasis or tortured for secrets. Baron Threxil used it to silence rebellion before it ever took root. Zeriel chose it for her debut. With a mixed unit of humans, aliens, and defectors, she dropped into the lower docking bay under the cover of magnetic interference. The guards, expecting nothing but slave transports, were dead before alarms even finished sounding. Zeriel moved like fire through the halls. Her cybernetic legs absorbed impact from leaps impossible for an organic body. Her vision adapted in real time, thermal, magnetic, motion sense. Her twin plasma blades sang with humming energy as she carved through armor. But it wasn't rage that drove her. It was precision, control, a warrior reborn not just with new limbs, but new purpose. Inside the prison core, she found what remained of House Ulger's insurgents, malnourished, broken, barely able to speak. A few recognized her. One dropped to his knees, whispering, "You were dead." "Not anymore," she said, and lifted him to his feet. She didn't just free the prisoners, she armed them. By the time the Baron's fleet arrived, it was too late. Irek Station had been stripped bare, the rebellion armed with weapons, ships, and a message. The Empire doesn't control us. Zeriel leads now. The broadcast went viral across hundreds of systems. Reid watched her train the new fighters. She taught like a human commander, grit, improvisation, teamwork. No honor duels. No ceremonial codes. Only survival. She fights harder now than before, Sergeant Vex said beside him. Maybe because she's finally fighting for herself. She's fighting for something worse than vengeance, Reid replied. She's fighting to prove them wrong. That night, a challenge arrived. An elite knight of House Ferric, rivals of the Threxils, called out Zeriel in a formal combat duel. A trap, clearly. If she refused, she'd look weak. If she lost, the rebellion would fracture. Zeriel accepted without hesitation. The duel took place on a scorched plain of Relos Minor, an old battlefield. Cameras captured every moment for the interstellar feeds. Millions watched. The Ferric Knight towered over her in heavy war armor, laughing as he raised his seismic hammer. "You think your artificial legs make you a warrior again?" Zeriel didn't answer. She let him charge. She dodged, barely, letting the hammer crater the ground. Sparks erupted as her blade scraped his shoulder. He roared, spun, struck again. She adapted. Every movement became data. Every hit recalculated. The next time he charged, she dropped low, slid under him, and drove both blades into the power joints of his exosuit. He collapsed in sparks and screams. She stood above him. "I didn't need legs to beat you," she whispered into the mic, but they helped. The crowd watching across the galaxy exploded in cheers. That night, in the command tent, Reid poured her a drink. "You've got nobles afraid to speak your name now. Even the Baron can't ignore you." Zeriel looked at the glass, then at him. "I'm not done yet. Not until I stand in his palace. Not as a daughter, not as a joke, but as the one who proved his entire world wrong." Reid nodded slowly. "Then we finish this." Outside, rebel ships lit the sky, and the Flameborn army began to march. Return of the Flameborn. Baron Threxil's throne room was just as Reid remembered. Vast, excessive, and designed to intimidate. But tonight it felt smaller. The golden pillars didn't shine as brightly. The nobles along the balconies weren't laughing. The air was heavy with dread, because outside the palace walls, the Flameborn surrounded the city. And leading them was the woman the Baron had given away like broken trash. Zeriel stood at the massive entrance doors, flanked by rebel guards and armored humans. She wore no crown, but her black armor shimmered with streaks of crimson light. her cybernetic limbs humming with coiled power. Her presence eclipsed the room. Both legend and fury forged into one. The Baron stood atop his floating throne, his voice echoing too loud, too forced. You dare return here like a queen? You were a corpse, a burden. I gifted you to the humans. You gifted me to my freedom, Zeriel replied. He scoffed. This rebellion is a spark in a hurricane. You bring war to your own blood. She stepped forward. No, you brought war when you paralyzed me and laughed. You ruled by fear, silenced dissent with poison and chains. Now you'll hear our answer. Dozens of guards raised their rifles, and dozens more laid theirs down. From within the noble audience, figures stood, some human, some alien, each wearing the sigil of the Flameborn. Defectors, rebels, traitors in the Baron's eyes. One by one they shouted, Zeriel rises. The legend breathes. She is justice now. Reid moved beside her, weapon holstered but ready. Your people chose, Baron, and they didn't choose you. Snarling, the Baron barked a command, and a hidden platform rose from the center of the chamber. From it stepped a monstrosity of metal and flesh, his final enforcer. An experimental battle beast with a human nervous system wired into alien plating. Its roar shook the foundations. Zeriel said nothing. She stepped into the arena. The fight was chaos. The beast lunged with crushing claws and jet-assisted charges, tearing marble from the floor. Zeriel ducked, leaped, and slashed with her twin blades, but even her cybernetic speed couldn't match its brute strength. It caught her mid-strike, slammed her into a pillar. Pain exploded in her spine. Old fears rose. No, not again. She activated her adaptive rig. Energy surged into her limbs. Not just defense, offense. As the creature lunged again, she rolled beneath it, tore open its knee joint with a reverse sweep, then launched herself onto its back. Her right arm transformed, nanometal shifting into a spike launcher. 3 bursts, straight into its neural relay. The beast howled, staggered, then collapsed in a burning heap. Zeriel stood over it, breathing hard, her eyes locked on her father. You turned me into this, she said. And you became a monster, he spat. No, she replied. You were the monster. I'm the reckoning. She leapt. He raised a shield, but her blade cut through its core. Sparks flew. The Baron fell, writhing, humiliated, armor cracking. Zeriel stood above him, blade inches from his throat. But she didn't strike. I won't become you. She turned to the throne and sat. The nobles whispered, waiting for the execution order. But it never came. Instead, Zeriel spoke clearly for the galaxy to hear, every camera broadcasting. The House of Threxil is no more. The Flameborn now lead. This empire ruled by fear is broken. We offer amnesty to those who join us. And to those who resist, know that the broken daughter you mocked now commands the storm. Cheers erupted in the streets below. The people had waited too long to hope, and now their hope wore armor. Later, on the balcony above the Capitol, Reid approached her. You did it. No, she said quietly. We did it. You, Mensa, the rebels, the prisoners, they made me more than I was. He smiled. You're not the Baron's daughter anymore. I never was, she said. He built a cage and called it Legacy. You gave me a forge, and I made fire. Below, the Flameborn banners rose over the palace. Zeriel's legend had been forged in exile, tempered in war, and crowned not by blood, but by choice. Not a tool, not a trophy, not a victim, a hero.